Welcome back to the deep dive.
Great to be here.
So today we're taking a closer look at Holy Tuesday. We've got some text excerpts.
Right, focusing on Jesus' teachings and, importantly, his authority around that time.
Exactly. And the interesting thing is how this isn't just, ancient history. The idea is there might be some insights here that are surprisingly relevant, whatever your background.
Definitely. The sources really set the scene, don't they? Holy Tuesday, Jesus teaching, right there in the temple.
Yeah, and the tension is palpable. You can almost feel it rising with the religious leaders.
Absolutely. But what stands out is how unwavering he is, according to these texts.
Yeah.
He doesn't back down.
And he makes this claim, this assertion that his words carry all divine authority.
That's the phrase used.
Yeah.
What's specifically in the way he taught, based on these excerpts, made it different? Made it seem like he had this unique authority.
Well, that's a key point. It seems he wasn't just, quoting the usual traditions or relying on other rabbis.
He spoke differently.
Yeah, the texts emphasize he spoke with his own power. And then there's that huge claim.
The one about heaven and earth.
That's it. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will never pass away. I mean, that's quite something.
It really is. It forces you to think, what does it actually mean for words to be eternal beyond just, lasting a long time?
Right. Is it about impact or literal permanence?
And making a claim like that back then, it was a direct challenge.
To the whole established order, absolutely. His clarity, his truth, as presented here, really kind of confronted the hypocrisy they saw.
It makes you think about today, too, doesn't it? How do enduring truths or principles you hold stack up against, say, fleeting trends or shifting opinions in your own life or work?
That's a really practical connection. And the texts argue that point too, that even after 2 millennia, this message still has power. It can still transform lives.
Which raises the question, why do some ideas stick around and keep impacting people while others just fade away? What gives them that staying power?
Good question. The source material frames Jesus' word as something constant.
Like an anchor, a compass, a light. That's the language used.
Yeah, especially in a world that the text describes as full of shifting truths and passing trends. It taps into that need for something solid, something reliable.
It really does. And these excerpts, they're not just describing events, they actually pose direct questions for us to reflect on.
Right, like that first one, whose voice am I listening to more, the world's or Jesus's?
Which is really asking, what are your primary sources of influence? Where are you getting your information, your values?
It forces you to consider who or what you're actually giving authority to in your own thinking.
And that leads right into the next one they pose.
Am I seeking to please people or to live according to God's truth?
Which broadens it out, doesn't it? Are your actions driven by external validation or by your core beliefs, your internal compass?
That's a tough one for many people, I think. That tension is real.
It is. And then the final question from the text is maybe the most direct.
The one about building your life.
Yeah, am I building my life on what passes away or on what endures forever? That really cuts to the chase about priorities, doesn't it? What are you investing in? What's the foundation?
Absolutely. It's about the long-term impact of our choices versus, short-term gains or fleeting things.
So if we sort of boil it all down, the central takeaway from these sources is pretty clear.
It's about Jesus's authority being presented as, supreme.
Supreme, ultimate.
Yeah.
And his word as eternal, unchanging, a foundational truth to build on.
And there's a call to action embedded right there in the text, aimed at the reader or listener.
It says, listen to his word, believe in it, and let that truth shape your life, your faith, and your future.
It's presented not just as information, but as an invitation for personal engagement, for reflection.
Definitely. Which leads us to maybe a final thought for everyone listening to chew on. Given this idea of eternal words and supreme authority presented here, in this world where so many voices and sources are constantly vying for our attention, what other sources, if any, do you feel make a similar claim to lasting relevance? And maybe more importantly, how do you personally evaluate the authority of those different sources in your own life?
That's a great question to leave people with, something to really think about.